Coming up on Colonial Crossfire. Trump at war with his party. Clinton under fire from leaked emails. And will Russia influence the outcome of the election? Joining us on the left, Tremaine Smith. On the right, Taylor Walters. And I'm your moderator, Andrew Desiderio. This is Colonial Crossfire. One bombshell after another, an October surprise here, an October surprise there. What on earth could be next? Welcome to Colonial Crossfire. I'm Andrew Desiderio. Just when we thought this campaign couldn't get any more unpredictable, October happened. The phrase October surprise has never been more relevant than it is right now, and we're only halfway through the month. On the GOP side, Donald Trump was caught on tape making lewd comments in which he essentially said he could sexually assault women due to his celebrity status, while Hillary Clinton is dealing with her own mess, caused again by emails that some say validated many of Bernie Sanders' most fervent criticisms of her during the primary. So what, if anything, can Trump do at this point to win over swing voters and turn the tide in his direction? And can Clinton fend off criticisms that she's too close to Wall Street? Here to analyze that and more, our student panel. Supporting Hillary Clinton's Tremaine Smith, a graduate student from Salisbury, North Carolina, in the School of Political Management. Tremaine is the special assistant to Congressman G.K. Butterfield and a regular on our program. Supporting Donald Trump, Taylor Walters, a senior from Long Branch, New Jersey, majoring in political communication. Taylor works on a nationally syndicated conservative talk radio show. Thanks to both of you for being here. Many declared October 7th as the end of Donald Trump's presidential campaign. On that day, the Washington Post released newly unearthed footage of the Republican nominee making extremely lewd comments about women, essentially bragging about using his stardom to sexually assault women. Now, Trump apologized and shrugged off the comments as just, quote, locker room banter, but many Republicans did not take kindly to the remarks. Dozens of elected Republicans unendorsed Trump following the release of the tape. Many of them were reluctant to back him in the first place, so the new footage basically gave them a reason to abandon their party's nominee. There were even rumors that Trump's running mate, Mike Pence, would drop off the ticket. Long story short, the GOP and the Trump campaign were immediately set into crisis mode. Trump, meanwhile, had the opportunity to clear up his comments at the second presidential debate just 2 days later.
You called what you said locker room banter. You described kissing women without consent, grabbing their genitals. That is sexual assault. You bragged that you have sexually assaulted women. Do you understand that?
No, I didn't say that at all. I don't think you understood what was said. This was locker room talk. I'm not proud of it. I apologize to my family. I apologize to the American people. Certainly, I'm not proud of it, but this is locker room talk.
So, Taylor, was Trump's apology sufficient?
I think it was, absolutely, and it was his first apology, so that's how you know it's a big deal.
Is it genuine?
Yeah, I do believe it's genuine, and I also believe that Anderson was out of line in how he presented these comments. I'm not offended by the comments. What I'm offended by is the conflation of legitimate sexual assault with comments, alluding to what they really were just comments. And there are legitimate victims of sexual assault. There are legitimate women who have been raped, and I just think that to conflate Trump's comments from 11 years ago is not doing any service to those people and is not respectful of their experiences.
Tremaine, is that a good enough excuse?
No, and that's not a good enough answer. It was absolutely not a genuine apology. First of all, here's why it wasn't. First of all, his comments were gross. And as a man who is the son of a mother and hopefully the father of a daughter, I'm offended by it. You should be too. But it's not an apology because anytime an apology includes the word if, it becomes a non-apology. For instance, I'm sorry if I offended anyone, not an apology. It also becomes a non-apology if you deflect to another individual, like Trump did. He deflected to Bill Clinton. Becomes a non-apology. And as an athlete, as a multiple consecutive state medalist in track and a state medalist in wrestling who's been in many locker rooms with hormonal teenage boys, it has never heard this talk. It is not locker room talk. And for anyone to excuse that, well, they seem to be in the same boat paddling with the same oar.
Well, you're not going to see any groveling from Trump, okay? He's running on a very specific brand of masculinity. He's running on almost an anti, weakness platform. And I'm not saying I agree with you, the comments were disgusting, but I will say he's going to apologize. If he's going to apologize, he's going to do it the way he wants to do it. He's going to do it in a very Trumpian way.
Well, and that's
you
how
can't
he treats
expect
people.
it
If
any
he's going to
differently.
treat people the way he wants to treat them, he's going to do it in a Trumpian way. And it's just Maya Angelou said, if someone shows you who they are, believe them. He's doing that. He's doing it. He said, here's what I do, and then there's evidence now to support his own claim. So this is not some conspiracy or some trying to take him down. He has said what he does, and it is shown that he is doing exactly what he said. And for the life of me, I can't believe that there are still congressional leaders who endorse him. They're endorsing that sexist, sexual assault behavior. I can't believe there are religious leaders on the right who for years have been the champion of all things moral and all things family values. Groping a woman's genitals, forcing your tongue down their throat, and sexually harassing them is not any family values that I grew up with as an evangelical.
Taylor, in an effort to sort of counter the narrative that formed after the tape was released, Donald Trump brought out 4 of Bill Clinton's accusers, one of whom accused Hillary Clinton of sort of enabling Bill Clinton. Do you think this was effective in countering the narrative, or did it just, get on the back burner?
Well, absolutely. I think that Hillary Clinton said herself, every woman has the right to be believed. So if that is true, then what about these women? Do they have the right to be believed? I mean, they've been sharing their stories for 20 years now, and they've still received really appalling treatment from the Clintons and their staffers and their cronies. And I just don't think, and no, I do think it's important especially for millennials who weren't around when that was happening or weren't old enough to understand, to know that, this is the person that you would be electing, a person who enables this kind of behavior as well. So as far as it being effective, I do think it showed the kind of things that Bill Clinton is capable of and that Hillary Clinton is capable of defending. So in that way, I think it was.
Tremaine, I'll let you respond.
Yeah, I find it awfully interesting that you say every woman deserves to be believed when Trump spent about 25 minutes or so around that time lambasting a woman who claimed that he sexually assaulted her. So that's suspect. What I also find interesting is that when you're running on tactics, you're losing. This was a tactic, a ploy. When you're running on strategy, you're winning. Clinton is winning on strategy. But I find it awfully interesting, again, that the R in Republican lately seems to mean reverse, because the only things you all are interested in thinking, talking, and doing is backwards. You're trying to take us back to the 1990s where Bill Clinton is not on the ballot. Here's who is on the ballot. Hillary Clinton. And she's up in all the swing state polls, maybe not in Ohio, and come November 8th, she's going to be the next president-elect.
Well, first of all, I didn't say every woman has the right to be believed. That's what Hillary Clinton said. And clearly,
well, you allude to that in your answer supporting Trump.
Clearly, does not really feel that way. And as far as running a negative campaign, I think it's clear that that is not unique to Trump at all. And also, I think in response to what you said about, what you said about Hillary being an advocate for women. It's the fact is that even though she is running for president and Bill Clinton is not, she called these women bimbos. She defended a rapist in court, and those are the things that she's done. So I don't think you can. I think even if it is connected, the Bill Clinton accusers are connected. I think Hillary is very much implicated.
Well, it's not connected because she's not running. They're not running.
I'll let that be the last word on that. We need to pivot to some policy now. Another key moment of the debate was when Trump publicly broke with his running mate over what to do about Russia's involvement in Syria.
I want to remind you what your running mate said. He said provocations by Russia need to be met with American strength, and that if Russia continues to be involved in airstrikes along with the Syrian government forces of Assad, the United States of America should be prepared to use military force to strike the military targets of the Assad regime.
Okay. He and I haven't spoken, and I disagree. I disagree.
You disagree with your running mate.
I think we have to knock out ISIS. Right now, Syria is fighting ISIS.
But Taylor, Russia and Assad are not targeting ISIS, and Syria is actually killing its own people, right?
Yes, absolutely. Syria is killing its own people, and it's a travesty, and it is a total humanitarian crisis. However, Trump not wanting to use ground forces is something that is a careful assessment of how we need to employ military strategy. I don't think that that ground troops are the answer to this problem. I think Trump knows that involving ourselves on the ground in another war is very risky. I also think that he and Mike Pence have some room to disagree on this. Trump is in charge of military policy as per the Constitution were he elected president. So I think a respectful disagreement between the two is more than acceptable.
Tremaine?
Well, it would be acceptable if it were a disagreement between the two. Apparently, they've not even come to any disagreement because they've not talked, by Trump's own admission. What it boils down to here is a humanitarian crisis and how we're going to deal with Russia. Trump, on live television in front of 65 million people, disavowed his own running mate's hawkish stance about how to deal with Assad. And it's just very unsettling to me, as an American citizen, how you can't talk very basic 30,000-foot broader framework foreign policy with the guy who, if you drop dead, is going to take over. That makes no sense to me, and that's where we are currently. They've not even won the election. Hopefully they won't, and they won't. But that's what we have to look forward to. It's awfully concerning.
Tremaine, Trump criticized Clinton over the supposed red line earlier in the Obama administration. Is she really the right person to speak on this then?
Well, she is. I don't believe she was in. I think she alluded to, obviously disagreements that she and the president have, and that's going to happen. But again, they actually conferred. So I don't think that. I do think she's the right person to be speaking on this issue. I mean, she's been the Secretary of State. She's dealt with these issues, and she absolutely knows how to handle them.
Mm-hmm. Taylor, I want to pivot to one other thing Trump said during the debate. He suggested that Hillary Clinton would be in jail under his presidency. Is that a bad precedent to set? Is it wrong to suggest you would jail your political opponents?
Trump is not setting that precedent at all, actually. The Democrats have written the book on prosecuting and going after their political opponents legally.
Who?
The undercover journalist who filmed the Planned Parenthood videos,
What president
the
has
Little
done this?
Sisters of the Poor,
What Democratic president has done
pro-lifers, cake bakers, florists,
What Democratic
Dinesh
president?
D'Souza, and not to mention Nancy Pelosi said that she could have Karl Rove arrested any day she wants to on the Senate floor. So I mean, I just think it's a little bit of a false pretense here that he would be setting this precedent when the Democrats obviously have a lot of experience in prosecuting their political opponents.
Isn't it different at the presidential level, though, when you're in a
No.
debate with your opponent? No?
No, it's not.
Well,
Tremaine?
I think it's absolutely different. And while you're dressed like Hillary, and that's a very nice ensemble, you're talking like Trump. It is absolutely a dangerous precedent. First of all, he can't do that. Newsflash, the president can't do that. There are policies and procedures in place that prevent him from doing that. But also, we hear this kind of jargon from dictatorial regimes around the world. Mussolini, Chavez, these are the types of folks that Trump is speaking like. And so, one, there's no precedent for a president doing that, and you obviously could not point to that. You're talking about Pelosi and all, and she's in the House, so it wouldn't be the Senate floor, it would be the House floor. But it's an absolutely dangerous precedent to start. It's dictatorial, and it's not American. It's antithetical to everything that is American exceptionalism.
Taylor, you get the last word on this segment.
Yeah. In response to that, I don't see where I disagree. Trump is not, promoting some sort of dictatorial regime. In fact, those are the regimes which the Clinton Foundation has supported and been supported by. So I'm not at all on board with that assessment. However, I will say that as president, appointing people to administrative agencies who are not going to, as Obama has, and politicizing those agencies, there absolutely is a precedence
like
for
Nixon
that.
did, and his AG had the testicular fortitude to actually resign, as opposed to carry out a crooked and vindictive vendetta against people he wanted to.
All right, we're gonna pause right there. Coming up after the break, we'll turn our focus to the rest of the presidential race outside of the debate stage. Stay with us.
History isn't only what's happened. History is also what's happening. At the George Washington University, we're making history every day.
We pass legislation that shapes our lives, our culture, and our future.
We live the mantra, champions in the classroom, in the community, and in competition.
Which instills in us a determination to reach new heights.
We break new ground in the treatment of patients and the study of disease.
And tackle the most important challenges in our society.
We form new relationships and grow as entrepreneurs.
And we imagine new ways to connect on a global scale.
As alumni, we make history by supporting students.
We create scholarships that make an exceptional education attainable.
We provide tools and facilities that allow new ideas to come alive.
And we enhance GW's academics by attracting world-renowned faculty.
And delivering career-launching opportunities.
I'm making history.
I'm making history.
I'm making history.
The George Washington University is making a difference. The George Washington University is making history. Join us.
Welcome back. On the same day that the Washington Post released the infamous Trump tape, WikiLeaks announced that it had obtained Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta's personal emails. The organization has been releasing a couple thousand per day since. Now, one of the emails contained what is believed to be excerpts of paid speeches Hillary Clinton gave to Wall Street firms after she left the State Department. In one of them, Clinton says single-payer health care would reduce overall costs. But in a separate opposition research memo contained in the emails and circulated by senior aides, the Clinton campaign was readying attacks on Sanders for supporting a healthcare system similar to single payer. In another, she says she's, quote, far removed from the struggles of the middle class and believes in, quote, open trade and open borders. At best, the statements reflect her evolving views on the subjects. And at worst, they validate many criticisms levied at her from Bernie Sanders and others on the left. Namely, that she's too cozy with Wall Street.
This should be of concern to everyone that the Russians are trying to influence our election. But I'll answer your question directly, which is that she said all throughout this campaign she will crack down on Wall Street. She said it to, there's nothing that she hasn't said in private that she doesn't say in public.
So, Tremaine, despite Podesta's statement there, how do you square that with Clinton herself saying in one of the speeches that it's important to have a private position and a public position?
I just think this is a showing that you can be rigid in your standards but flexible in your approach. It's not unusual for anyone in a decision-making position to have alternative means by which they come to a desired end. You know, it's human to have a personal feeling towards one thing, but when you have a constituency, it's important to champion the causes with which that constituency expects. And so I think that's exactly what this is.
Taylor?
I think that that's really not a sufficient answer for the fact that she holds, you know, a completely separate position. We're not talking about nuances. We're talking about one position on trade and then another position which is totally opposite. And it's just more of the kind of elitist condescension that we see from the Clintons, which is, I'm going to get things done the way I need to get it done, and the less the people know, the better for me, because the more I can do what I want to do. And as far as the Podesta comments on Russia influencing the election, I think it's laughable. The left have been apologists for Russia for decades, and now suddenly they're very concerned about the involvement.
Well, now suddenly Trump and Putin are BFF.
Because Trump complimented one specific quality about Putin, which is his quote leadership,
And his
which
running
says
mate denied it.
which says nothing of the kind of regime and the kind of corruption that goes on in Russia, which has been something that the right has known and been talking about for a long time. So quite frankly, I don't really buy this faux moral outrage that all of a sudden, Russia's this big threat, because for years now I've heard we need a Russian reset. We really need to modernize our affairs with Russia. I mean, I can't even believe what I'm hearing now. This is not about the integrity of the election at all. I mean, now that it affects Clinton, I'm sure we have a real issue here. But before that, not the case.
Tremaine, I want to read you something she said in one of the speeches. She said, quote, "My dream is a hemispheric common market with open trade and open borders." Now, that seems to directly contradict what she said on a major policy issue, which is trade.
Well, it would be anyone's dream to have open cooperation internationally. And I know Trump doesn't believe that because he wants to wall us off and, take us back to Archie Bunker's 1950s. But to your question, I think it is quite the dream to have cooperation internationally. It was the dream of the Republicans not to nominate a homophobic, racist individual who sexually assaults women. But we can't always get what we want. And so to the specific policy, I think that where she is now is where she is current. Individuals can evolve on particular issues, and I think that's what we're seeing here.
I want to bring up something that Taylor said, was that Republicans have been skeptical of Russia for a while now. In one of the 2012 presidential debates, Mitt Romney actually said that Russia is one of the greatest geopolitical foes to the United States. And Mitt Romney was kind of laughed off by President Obama, who said 1980s are calling for their foreign policy back. Was Mitt Romney right?
Well, I think in the context of that, there were more elements to that point that the president was making. But I do say, though, it is very troubling that Russia is trying to interfere with our election process. I mean, it is proven by the Department of Homeland Security that they are behind these breaches, and it's troubling.
What was Obama's point?
And it's troubling that Trump would not understand this and continues to be cozy with Putin, and then his running mate, speaking to the, Putin's a better leader than Obama, says, "Oh, Trump didn't say that." Good Lord in heaven. The tape is right there. That's exactly what they said. And so it's more troubling to me that Trump is cozying up to Putin one day, the next day saying, "I don't know the man," the day after that saying he's a better leader than the president. He needs to evolve and come to a clear position on these issues.
There is no substantive evidence that the Russians have hacked these emails this time around. I'm just going to say right now, this is just yet again the Clintons colluding, diverting, and taking something that is potentially very embarrassing for them, disparaging Catholics, holding completely divergent positions on policy.
You talk disparaging Catholics. Your nominee disparaged the Pope, the Holy Roman Pope. That's disparaging Catholics.
If Podesta were criticizing any religion besides any non-Christian religion, he would have had to step down by now and would have had to issue some sort of apology. Well, I'm just saying. I'm just making the point that. Well, anyway, what I was saying was, this is just yet again the Clintons colluding with the media, colluding with the corrupt agencies to
Which agencies are corrupt? Department of Homeland Security? It's corrupt?
DHS, DOJ.
Wasn't it founded by President George W. Bush after 9/11 and it's corrupt? So you're saying the whole intel community is corrupt?
It's corrupt because they've failed to prosecute blatant crimes.
The Department of Homeland Security doesn't prosecute anything. And so there's again this disconnect between process and what reality is.
I want to get us back on track real quick because Trump denied at the debate that Russia is behind the hack of the DNC, which the Department of Homeland Security, as Tremaine said, and the Director of National Intelligence issued a joint statement last week in which they said, yes, we are confident that Russia was behind this. But Trump denied that in the debate, not relating to the Podesta emails, but just about Russia hacking the DNC emails. Trump himself is receiving classified intelligence briefings. Shouldn't he know better than to suggest that Russia is not behind it?
No, I don't think you should know better because I think this is a far from settled fact that Russia is involved in. I mean, you're talking about 3,000, you're talking about more than that. You're talking about thousands of emails, and you're talking about, all of this that, once again, the Clintons just are diverting.
You know,
and this,
I got to cut you off right there. That's about as much of that as I can take, because this hack info was briefed to and extensively discussed with both presidential candidates. It was discussed with congressional leaders. This notion that, oh, I don't even know if they're behind the hack is ludicrous. The man sat down and had briefings, as did Paul Ryan, as did Nancy Pelosi. I'm inferring here because it was congressional leaders who received the briefings. So it's absolutely ludicrous. Well, that's the tenor of Trump's campaign, ludicrousness, that he would not even say, well, maybe. He's just saying, well, maybe they're not even involved. It's ludicrous.
Taylor, is Trump at war with his own party right now? We saw a lot of Republicans drop their endorsements in light of the tape. Paul Ryan said earlier this week he's not going to defend Trump anymore, and he's going to focus solely on the congressional majorities. Is Trump officially at war with his own party?
Well, I mean, the party fired the first shot. This is ridiculous. The spinelessness of congressional Republicans never ceases to amaze me because, you know, for years they've been telling the base, unite behind the party, get behind our guy. And then the one time that, you know, the people get their candidate and, you know, he's rejected by the establishment elite, and now they're all have been told for years, just you know, hold your nose and pull the lever. But now Paul Ryan and all of these congressional Republicans can't do what they've been telling others to do for years. And if anything, I think this just betrays how out of touch the congressional Republicans continue to be with their base of the party.
Guys, quickly, 10 seconds each. I want a prediction from you on who's going to win the election and by how much.
I'm a gentleman, ladies first.
Okay.
At this point, I really can't. I really can't say. It's going to be, obviously it's going to be up to some critical states, and at this point it's looking bleak for my man Trump, but it's not over yet, and I think if anything we can be confident that that there's some error in the polls.
Well, according to those states, she's winning those states, and she's going to win 341 to 197.
Wow. That's a pretty big margin.
It is a big
All
margin.
Right. We'll see what happens. After this break, it's rapid fire. Stay with us.
Over the fall semester, GW student athletes have participated in over 4,800 hours of community service throughout the DC metro area. In a competition organized by Helper Helper, GW has completed more service hours than any other NCAA Division I or Division II institution. We are now in our final week. Follow GW Sports and Helper Helper app on Twitter to see the final rankings.
Raise high. This isn't just our battle cry. It's our call, our challenge. Because when you are called to Washington, you are called to higher expectations, to a higher standard. We are called here to advance knowledge, to serve society, to change the world. This is the George Washington University, and what we make is history. So stand up, be bold, take risks, press on, push harder, raise high.
Welcome back. Our panel joins us again for rapid fire, some quick answers to some quick questions. Colombian president and Nobel Peace Prize winner Juan Manuel Santos and the rebel group FARC came to an agreement to end a 52-year war, but citizens shot down a referendum to uphold it. Taylor, now that Brexit was approved and the Colombian referendum was voted down, should nations attempt to phase out this referendum process?
No, I don't think so at all. I think the fact that these referendum did not yield the result that the media and the elites of these countries preferred or expected is just simply the reason why now we're talking about phasing them out. And I would also say that these countries know what is best for them. The citizens of the countries should be able to decide what's best for them, and not, you know, endure the paternalism of, you know, we know what's best for you.
Tremaine, do you agree?
Not so much. You know, it looks like governance by popular opinion, and sometimes
majority rules.
Right, but sometimes it can subvert democracy and not serve it. I mean, these are typically voters, but they're typically low information voters having a hand in very major and serious policy implications. So I leave it up to the countries, but again, it's always a very risky thing.
Not smart enough to know what's good for them, Tremaine?
Well, I think they do, but it's very risky, Taylor.
All right. President Obama has recently delayed court proceedings of deportation cases for many undocumented immigrants. Tremaine, is President Obama abdicating his responsibilities by delaying their deportation?
No. From the reports that I read, it's a cost-saving measure for nonviolent people who came here as families in the last 2 years. I believe that DHS is opening up more facilities for these families who are caught illegally coming into the country, and immigration officers and judges are being called in to help expedite the process.
Taylor, same question to you.
Yeah, absolutely. He's abdicating his responsibility. I mean, as president, he's supposed to be the enforcer of our federal laws, and the fact that he can't, for the safety and the fortitude of our nation, follow through on those obligations is honestly pitiable, but not surprising.
And last but not least, a federal judge ruled in favor of the Florida Democratic Party to extend the voter registration deadline in the state by 1 week after Hurricane Matthew barreled through the state. The measure was opposed by Florida's Republican governor, Rick Scott. Taylor, should that deadline have been extended?
I don't think it should have. I mean, I think that the hurricane barely touched Florida. I mean, it was primarily the Carolinas that were affected. But you know what? Go ahead, the extension. Let it stand. I'm actually confident that Trump can pull that one out anyway.
Yes, he should have extended it. And I know in Interlochen and Monmouth-Borough, where you're from, it's 49% Republican, so you're not used to a diverse populace
Did you do
here.
a background check?
I never come to a room where I don't know who I'm in the room with. But I think you don't want to disenfranchise voters. It was a catastrophic event in Florida and in North Carolina. I'm from North Carolina, and so they should have absolutely extended it. And Democrats, again, are on the side of folks' voting rights.
I lived through Hurricane Sandy, okay?
I lived through Hugo and Floyd, so.
All right, and with that, we will end our debate here on Colonial Crossfire. Thank you very much, Tremaine Smith and Taylor Walters, for joining us. When we come back, Casey Decker has our debate fact check.
Great journalism matters because it's critical to a democracy that the public is informed and engaged and involved. And that happens by having credible information. And so the most important thing, whatever the delivery platform, whatever the technology, whatever the business model, is that the information itself is coming in solid and important ways and is being conveyed in compelling ways because there's so much noise and competition out there. And so that's what I really want our students to be able to do. Be brilliant storytellers, keen observers, and compelling communicators.
Welcome back. During our panel discussion, a team of fact-checkers monitored our debate. Casey Decker is here to fill us in on what we missed. Casey?
Thanks, Andrew. To start off, our Democrat Tremaine said Hillary Clinton is leading in every swing state but Ohio. That's not entirely true. Donald Trump has a 4-point lead in the most recent poll out of Iowa. As for our Trump supporter Taylor, she said that Hurricane Matthew barely touched Florida. While the storm did not make full landfall or have as dramatic an impact as predicted, it certainly caused havoc. More than 1 million people lost power, coastal towns were flooded, and 9 people in Florida died. Taylor also said that Donald Trump does not want to deploy ground forces to Syria. Ground troops are not an explicit part of Trump's platform, but he has called for them in the past and criticized Hillary Clinton for her adamant opposition to using them. That's all we have for the fact check. Andrew?
All right, thanks, Casey. And now for Spilled Milk. Here's our tribute to the very best of late-night political comedy.
Today, my love has gone away. The bottle stands so long.
I've heard much worse than that. Really? Much worse than that in locker rooms. But
I don't know. That's a
much worse.
Really?
Believe me.
What locker rooms are you hanging out in?
That's a great question. What locker rooms is Ben Carson hanging out in? No, think about this for a second. You can't imagine Ben Carson in the gym or participating in any sport that requires rapid movements.
I said it, I was wrong, and I apologize.
Okay, let's try and unpack all of that. First, he claims he's never said he's a perfect person, which, of course, is a lie. Then he says he never pretended to be someone he's not right before claiming these words don't reflect who I am, which is absolutely absurd. They could not capture his essence more if they were spoken by a spray-tanned Furby eating KFC and screaming at a Gold Star family.
Trump has also been running new ads stoking fears about terrorism with this ominous text, quote, "Donald Trump will protect you. He is the only one who can." I can protect you, I'm the only one who can, sounds like a line from a Lifetime movie about a lunatic stalking his ex-wife. And here's that poster.
All right, well, that's all for this episode of Colonial Crossfire. For all the latest updates from our political team at any time, be sure to follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook. And check us out online at www.gw-tv.com. For all of us here at GWTV, I'm Andrew Desiderio. Thanks for getting caught in the crossfire with us. We'll see you right back here next time.